Hello, hello. Welcome to our hormone healthy meal planning session today. So excited to be here with you. And I know some of you are going to try and catch the recording afterwards, which is totally great as well. But I want to have a really powerful discussion and carve out this time to have a breakthrough. My intention is that you get at least one, if not more than one, really great pearl of information, inspiration, new aha, and tools to take with you as you continue to support your body through healthy nourishment. We know nutrition is so critical when it comes to our overall health and vitality. And if you wouldn't mind taking a moment to just introduce yourself in the chat, put your name, put where you're joining us from. I always think it's great to see where we're coming from. Definitely some familiar faces and always some new people tuning in as well. So go ahead and use the chat feature. The chat feature is, if you see on the bottom of your screen, usually if you don't see it pop up, it may say more, and then you can open up the chat there as well. So we have someone from Arizona, someone from Illinois joining us, the Chicagoland area. That's where close to me. Awesome. Good, good, good. Okay, so I'm going to let that chat stay open from Venice Beach, California. All right. And then I want to kind of tune in for what came up for you in terms of what inspired you to be here today. So you can put in the chat if it's something of inspiration. I want to get some new ideas. Maybe it's creative recipes or something different that I haven't thought of. Maybe it's, I really want to understand what is getting in the way. What are the biggest blocks for getting in consistent nourishment? Because, we all have different things. Maybe it's, I want some additional focus. I just kind of want this to be an opportunity to tune in and to give some more focus to my meals, more focus to my foods. Seeing you yesterday inspired me. All right, good. I love that, Karen. That is amazing. Let's see, gaining knowledge about food, connections to hormone health. Yes, yes, yes. This is all good. New ideas for easy meal planning and nutrition. Okay, so lots of things, inspiration, new ideas, creativity. My intention is to, like I said, have you walk away with at least one actionable thing to implement, but also do a little bit of kind of excavating, what I like to think of bringing to the surface, because let's be honest, when it comes to nutrition in today's society, it's not for lack of information. Any one of us could probably find, I don't know, whether it be through a cookbook, Googling recipes, or even finding access to meal planning tools and resources, tracking things on apps such as MyFitnessPal. You can track your food choices and things like that. So it's not for lack of information that we tend to struggle with when it comes to our nourishment and really getting that consistent level into our body to be optimally energized, well-rested, healthy, all of those things. It's usually some other saboteur, what I call the why bother syndrome. So I want to just kind of share a couple of perspectives, a couple of ideas, and see if you can relate to any of these. And if you can, great. You're just like all of us, right? There's nothing wrong with you. It's just a matter of recognizing and tuning into. So I want you to think of these. I'm going to name off 4 or 5 or 6 different things and make a mental note, which, if any of these seem to ring true or to resonate for you. So I wrote some down. Like, at some point this year in 2023, did you get really excited and think like, okay, this is it. I've got a plan. I'm going to focus. I'm going to be really intentional with my nourishment, and maybe even got started and really had a good game plan, went to the grocery store, printed off your recipes, and kind of really dialed in what you were eating. And then after maybe 2-3 weeks, lost that energy, lost that focus, momentum, and kind of just got to the point of like, okay, this is too hard, forget it, and kind of just gave up. Right? Has anyone ever been there before? If so, totally relate. Yeah, Karen's laughing and saying, yeah, I get that. Okay. What about at some point in the past 2 months, have you experienced 2 or more unwanted symptoms? Things where you were just like, oh my gosh, whether it be headache, fatigue, insomnia, bloating, some type of unwanted symptom, and yet part of you just felt overwhelmed at like, I don't even know where to begin in order to resolve the symptom. Maybe you know, have some ideas, but just the whole implementation of it or the knowing what to do just seemed too big. And almost maybe even, I don't even know if I believe that it's possible. So you had some unwanted symptom, something that you've experienced, and then kind of just, again, kind of threw up the hands or got to a place of defeat. What about in the last month? In the last 3 to 4 weeks, have you woken up irritable more than 2 times for lack of sleep? You didn't get good, restful, restorative sleep. Maybe you ended up snapping at a family member or just kind of showing up impatient or some way that you didn't want because, again, your body wasn't getting what it needed. That's the third one. What about, have you put so much time and effort into your work or maybe into your family or loved ones, some other avenue in your life that your health has kind of taken a back burner? And even though you want your health to be different, you want to have more vitality, more energy, you want to have more clarity, but the other things have always taken priority or precedent over you putting more attention and focus into your health changes. Perhaps, maybe you've been to doctor's appointments in the last year and you've been told everything looks fine, but you don't feel fantastic, right? And part of you is even questioned, like, should I do some additional exploration? Should I have some, maybe I could do some extra lab work, some hormone analysis, or even some gut work and kind of get some more support or get some more tools and information to know. But then other things in life have always become more important. Something has come up, you've gotten too busy and you just haven't done it. Yeah, I see Kate saying, amen, sister. Yeah, totally. Hey, listen, I get this, right? This is the saboteur. This is what we're really talking about. This is what I call the why bother syndrome. And we're going to be talking about how to unpack that today, because it really is the number one thing. The antidotes are to step through that why bother syndrome, to engage, to connect with, and to really prioritize your health, your vitality, and your well-being in a new way. And there's 3 antidotes I want to share with you for how do we do that, right? So I'm gonna actually kind of tune into my screen. We're gonna get into these antidotes. We're gonna get into some recipes and give you some other ideas as well. But I always think it's so important to do this work. So let me share my screen. All right, give me a thumbs up if you can see where it says Hormone Healthy Meal Planning. Yes, yes, you can see that. Okay, perfect. Great. So this is a workbook, and actually give me a second here. I'm going to put this into the chat so you can go right along with me as give me a moment. Where's my chat feature? I'm not the most quick on the tech, but if you want to click on the link in the chat, and I will share this recording and share this as well. This Hormone Healthy Meal Planning workbook is very comprehensive. I'm just going to tell you, we will not go through this whole entire thing during our free training today, but it's yours as my gift to go through it and really take the time to brainstorm, to get some new creative ideas. So you're going to see a lot of great stuff in this. But when we think about this, I want you to think about your vibrant self. So as we dive in, the first step is to clarify where you're headed. Why is it important? Why did you show up today, right? What did you want to get? Please take a few minutes in silence. You can meditate, you can journal. And I want you to reflect on your version of being optimally healthy by answering these questions. And I'll give us a minute or so here. I want you to imagine stepping into that future version of your best, vibrant, most healthy self. What does she do? What does she have in her life? What is different about her life? What is she not doing? And what does she no longer have? So I'm going to give us a few moments here. Got it? Okay, perfect. So you guys have the workbook. For those of you that are just tuning in, we are starting off to get grounded and centered in our intentionality and really where we're headed, why we want to learn to prioritize our food choices, our hormone health in a new way. So I want you to take a moment here to reflect, or invite you to take a moment to reflect on these questions about your optimally healthy, vibrantly healthy version of yourself. And I'll give us another, minute or so. And then I always think it's super powerful to have some sharing that comes up, because this is where the breakthroughs, thinking of, especially when we ask, what is she no longer doing? What does she no longer have? I'll give us one more minute here. And please feel free, if you are open to being somebody who's going to share with us, please raise your hand in the controls in your Zoom. There's an option to raise hand under reactions. So, or you can just even unmute and speak up if you're comfortable with that as well. But I definitely encourage you to engage, fully participate. All right, let's see here. Who is Karen? Do I see your hand up?
No, but I'll be.
No, okay. But are you open to sharing at least some of the things that came up for you?
I was actually just about to. I downloaded the workbook and it's a PDF and it won't let me work on it.
Oh, maybe it's not accessible for you to type into it.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I apologize about that. I wasn't sure if my assistant was able to do it where it's editable, or if you just have the information there and then you can print it off and write it or reflect on another piece of paper.
Okay, but sure, I'll go. What does she do? She exercises and eats well. What does she have? I don't know what you mean by that.
What does she have? Maybe it's in terms of like you have new experiences, you have the energy to, go out on the weekends and do hike. I'm just thinking of different things. Like, what does she?
Oh, gotcha. Yes. Just, healthy and happy and accomplishing more.
Mm-hmm.
And what is different about her life? She accomplishes more.
Yeah.
What is she doing? What does she no longer have? She's no longer has the aches and pains. Right now I'm suffering from sciatica, so that's got me.
Okay. Yeah. So your body feels better, like more freedom, more comfort, it sounds like, in your physical body.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Gone.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's key, is like literally when whether it be through physical discomfort, pain, and or just fatigue, lack of energy, like that it's in a different way. It's a different way of, it truly limits our experience in life.
Could the sciatica at all be related to hormones and health?
Yeah, well, sciatica actually is probably, yes, sometimes there is like an anatomy misalignment with different parts of the body and the muscle structures, but it also is pain perception is very strongly correlated with our hormone levels and our neurotransmitter levels. In particular, you're going to hear me talk later about serotonin. Serotonin is a really critical neurotransmitter that helps to regulate our perception of pain. And cortisol and corticosteroids, like if you ever think of somebody getting a shot of cortisone, what essentially they're doing is they're injecting extra corticosteroids that their body is not able to produce on its own intrinsically, because there's probably a lack of nourishment so that the adrenal glands can produce its own, almost like, think of it like the grease in a wheel.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So nourishment definitely can absolutely impact our experience of pain, aches and pains in the body, and inflammation. Okay, wonderful. Thank you for being our example. And I hope everyone else who's here was able to really get just some clarity and some insights about what is going to be different in your life as you continue to put more emphasis on nourishment, on meal planning, on specifically getting clear. The next thing I want us to think about is, what does food mean to you, right? For everyone, food shows up, and it shows up in different places, and it shows up in different roles in different times in our life. But an example, everything we do, like, when we think about a food like potatoes, that's ubiquitous. It's all around us in our society. But when you go just beyond what the food gives you in terms of the nutrients, right? It gives you some phosphorus, it gives you some iron, it gives you some magnesium, it gives you some zinc, it gives you calories and carbohydrates and fiber in terms of what your body is chemically going to do with those nutrients. There's so many other implications of food. Maybe for you, potatoes can satisfy a craving, right? Maybe it provides an easy, quick, convenient food. Maybe it satisfies a desire for pleasure. Maybe it's helping you to feel calmer and more relaxed so you don't drink as much alcohol. Maybe potatoes are something that you're a bit fearful of because of, it gives you acid reflux. It has some, different components, different enzymes that in the potato peel that make you feel digestive distress when you eat them. So for every person, it's very, very different. So I want us to think about, what does food mean to you? What associations, what beliefs, what thoughts do you have about just in general? And again, this isn't going to hit every single bucket. Like I said, we're kind of just hitting some of the key points that really stand out today. But when you go beyond just the nutrients that I'm giving to my body, when you think about your experience of consuming foods and meals, what associations, what thoughts, and what beliefs do you have about food? And just really allow the space for what is meant to be revealed and come through for you today is going to be here, because it's available for maybe some transformation, some exploration. Karen says mostly comfort. Okay, very insightful. Anyone else? Katie, I'm curious, what comes up for you when you think about your associations or your beliefs about food? Connection and celebration. Wonderful. Okay, good. Susie, what comes up for you typically when you think about food? I'd just like to kind of see where we're at and see how we're aware of the roles that food plays for us in our lives. Nourishment is really key, right? Comfort. Yes. Okay. So comfort. So again, us thinking about, okay, no worries. If you can't answer or type in now, no worries too. This is just a good reflection for us to thinking about how we are using food in addition to the nutrient caloric input. Oftentimes, in fact, I would say majority of the time, that component, the associations and the beliefs, is even more impactful than the nutrients. We tend to focus on the nutrients a lot, and we're going to dive into that because the nutrients and the micronutrients are important. However, if we're not looking at this bigger picture, we are missing over 50% of the influential factor here. So when we think about using food for comfort, if we reflect that some of our food choices are actually impairing or hindering our health and vitality, then it's an invitation to say, okay, well, what else could I substitute and swap to give me comfort? What else is another way to feel that connection, that celebration that doesn't necessarily center around the actual food experience? Like I'm going to share with you one of my favorite recipes, what I call it the midlife maca latte, is really has been super helpful for many clients because it has very different biochemical response in the body to somebody who is in the habit and loves the ritual of enjoying a cocktail or even a glass of wine or something, or even coffee at certain points in the day, whether it be the morning or whether it be the afternoon or the evening, whatever. So a lot of times we have ritualistic patterns of behavior, and it may be for familiarity, it may be for comfort, it may be for connection, but sometimes just swapping the ingredients and maintaining the ritual can be a tremendous shift in what happens physiologically in the body, right? But we want to hold on to that meaning, that ritual, that component that's really supporting us, and then thinking about ways that we can shift that. So that is really, really, new insights to think about. All right. The next piece for us to think about again. So when we think about why we tend to self-sabotage with why bother syndrome, why we kind of just disconnect, it's because we're losing sight of these deeper layers and we're just trying to get all analytical and all in our head about which foods and how does it taste? Do I like this taste? It's too much time and all this stuff. But we need to go to the deeper layers. We get to go to those deeper layers because then it's really soul fulfilling. It actually becomes a multi-layer experience of nourishment. So I want us to next think about when we encourage ourselves to check in and look at our gains, how we're looking at food. I want you to think about the real success when it comes to supporting our hormone balance for the long term, right? This is not do it for 2 weeks, do it even for a month, because if it's going to be something that's transient, that's temporary, it's not going to be sustainable. Listen, our body is constantly regenerating. I think this is actually a really interesting statistic, but more recently, we have these biologists, Ron Sender and Ron Milo of the Weinsberg Institute in Israel have recently revealed new calculations that the average human body, there's a little bit of variability, but on average, the average human body regenerates 330 billion new cells every single day. 330 billion. Do you know what that means? That means we are creating roughly 3.8 million cells every second. I'm going to say that again. 3.8 million cells now. Thinking about how much, like, it's fascinating. It's literally mind-blowing how much your body is working for you constantly all the time. But the cool thing about that is, what is it creating those new cells from? It's creating them from the foods and the nourishment that we are intaking, right? So when we truly get connected with some of the specificity of how miraculous our body is, with what it needs and what it's utilizing to just run on a daily basis. I mean, we literally can have a brand new liver, a whole new organ created in a matter of several weeks, right? You can have a new intestinal lining in your GI tract produced in roughly 90 days. You can have all new skin in several months, right? So our body is not static. It is not stuck. If we're experiencing symptoms, it's not stuck that those have to be perpetual or consistent. They're constantly being turned over. The question often is, though, a lot of times they'll be replicated and create more of the same if the internal environment and if the surrounding and circumstances are set up to create more of the same, right? So when we think about what are we shifting, what are we creating awareness around, the greater the adjustments and the sustainability of those adjustments, the more we're going to see that play out in our physical body. So I just want to share that because I think it's truly empowering to know there is always another day. There is always new possibilities within our body, but it's the same sustainability. So when we talk about some of these areas of opportunity, this is why I'm going back to thinking about how are we measuring our true gains of supporting our optimal vitality and health, right? So for Karen, who wants to get out of the aches and pains in her body, who wants to have that energy, that vitality, to have more productivity and to be able to experience additional things in her body. Well, what are we going to be able to do and sustain over the long course? I want us to think about celebrating, noticing, and tuning into what I call the leading metrics of success rather than the lagging metrics of success when it comes to nourishment. Leading, for example, how many times am I intentionally preparing meals each week? Did I think about the foods that I'm putting on my plate or putting in my body? How many of those meals did I really have an intentional plan versus how much did the scale show, right? That's a lagging indicator. How many evenings am I in bed by 10 o'clock getting really good restorative sleep, unwinding so that I can sleep peacefully, versus do I feel refreshed and energized every single day? How many days am I taking specific supplements for my body that I know are beneficial, versus how am I experiencing digestive ease and no headaches, right? So those are great. Those are great things. We're going to get to these lagging indicators, but oftentimes we lose sight of the leading indicators that really show us that longevity, that really give us the focus and the connection for the long term. So thinking about those things is really critical. A lot of big picture concepts here for us to dive into, to think about, and have you step away with where things are currently, how often you're doing that, and where do I get to up level? Where do I get to tune in further? One of the things also that I think is really, really important is specificity, knowing what your body needs. And I'm going to give just an example. This is just a brief little snapshot. But one of the things that we do with our clients is we look at, where does your body specifically show signs that it's suboptimal? And oftentimes when we're looking at, you know, going to a doctor and getting kind of like, oh, everything looks fine, what we don't realize is looking within the normal reference range. This is like, I deleted the information, but this is a normal reference range of a client. This is what you would see when you go to your doctor. Well, you can see it's within the normal reference range, right? But if we look at it from an optimal level of functional, like what's really truly optimal and functional, for example, total protein, we want to be over 7.0, 6.9 on the low end. That means your body has enough protein coming in on a regular basis that it can use that protein to make those 3.8 million cells every single second, because every cell is created from protein, right? So we can tell that in this case, now this person would never have been known otherwise from her doctor. Everything looks fine. Well, it's trending in the direction of where your body is not adequately, either you're not eating it or it's not able to digest it and get access to those amino acids to build new cells. Same thing here, alkaline phosphatase. Actually, it's clinically low. So this one was below even the reference range, but that is an indicator. Oftentimes I see this very frequently where it's not even mentioned to the client. She didn't know that this was noteworthy. It's a sign of suboptimal zinc, very low mineral absorption. Zinc is something that we need for adequate thyroid health, for adequate immune system strength, right? So we can start to see patterns. Here's just another one, mean corpuscle volume. All of this is found on your regular, everyday annual lab work of 90.7. Again, within reference range, so not notable because it's not diagnosable yet, but it's trending high. When we see that above 89, above 88, it means that the size of your red blood cells is enlarging because they either probably are suboptimal levels of iron or some specific B vitamins. They may have what's called macrocytic anemia. So we can start to see signs that, hey, your body isn't quite getting enough of the nutrients in on a regular basis way before you have a diagnosable situation from your lab work, right? So it's good. So having specificity about why it's so important, because my body is literally creating 3.8 million cells every single second. It needs nourishment from what I'm consuming to do that, to make those cells. And knowing even more dialed in where your body is now and what it needs to be able to replenish those stores. So we're going to dive into what I call my 5 key nutrients for hormone health in general. And I'll move fairly quickly through these so I can get to one of my favorite recipes to share with you. But first is protein. You've heard me talk about protein. Protein is critical because it is necessary to create every single cell in the body. This is something that many women are surprised at as they reach after age 35 into 40s, 50s, 60s, how much protein is really optimal for their body, given that, especially if you don't have a large appetite. Protein, the great thing about it is satiating. So it tends to fill us up. The other thing to consider with protein is sometimes as we age, we become low in the levels of stomach acid. When we have lower levels of stomach acid, it makes it harder to digest and fully break down those protein into amino acids. So again, a conversation to have with your health provider, your health consultant, or who you work with in supporting you around optimal health. If you find that either A, you're not consuming adequate amounts of protein, or B, when you do have meals with protein, primarily animal sources of protein, that it is challenging to digest and to fully absorb. But this is one of those things we want to think about. Normally, I say a palm-sized serving of protein, ideally 3 times a day with meals. That's just a general guideline if you're not like weighing and measuring. But for many women, that's between 50 and 80 grams of protein per day. So thinking about that's food ingredient number 1. The next thing that's really, really important is fiber. Now, fiber is our friend. It helps to provide prebiotic nutrients for a healthy microbiome. In the gut, we have a planetary number of microbes and bacteria and all sorts of archaea that live in our digestive tract. Although actually, in fact, from the mouth all the way down through the anus is full of microscopic organisms. One of the things that they need as a food source, the healthy ones that need as a food source, is fiber. In the short, and when they have healthy amounts of fiber, they actually produce hormones for us. They're helpful in producing adequate levels of serotonin in the brain. We talked about this, Karen, for your pain, right? A lot of that comes with your gut. Your gut is responsible for producing 90% of your body's serotonin. If we don't have enough of the nutrients coming in to feed the microbes that normally would produce the serotonin, well, we're not going to have enough serotonin. Does that make sense? So these are some really great sources. These are some less, that was for protein. For fiber, these are some really great sources. I love, you guys will hear me talk about, I love beans, legumes, different types, whether it be kidney beans, lentil beans, garbanzo beans. For the serving size, you can only have a couple of teaspoons, like 3 tablespoons of beans. You have a really rich and abundant source of fiber. But it's found in many different things. Fruits and vegetables are great sources of fiber. Nuts, rice, different things like that. Whole grains have fiber. So thinking about fiber with every meal, as well as protein. Next, we have our vitamins and minerals, and you'll notice I lump these together because they're so potent when we think about fruits and vegetables. Thinking about eating a rainbow of colors, a rainbow of variety of fruits and vegetables. There are more nutrients in one apple than you could ever have from taking supplements or vitamin. There's over 300 phytonutrients and vitamins and minerals in an apple. So when we eat real whole food in its most natural state, I mean, yes, sometimes cooking it and whatever is fine too, but there's nothing that can replace the value of continuous consumption of these fruits and vegetables. It really, really is supportive for the body. Examples of complex carbohydrates. So fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates. Typically, when we think of carbohydrates and people are like, cut carbs, cut carbs, cut carbs, what they're thinking of and what we're referring of is mostly these simple carbohydrates that have been processed, highly refined, and are really quick absorbing sugars for the body. We want to minimize those, but increase the number of complex carbohydrates that's found in fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, things like that. So these are some examples. The next category that specifically is really important for hormone health is healthy fats, especially omega-3 healthy fats. Our hormones are created from lipids, fats. If we do not have adequate amounts of fats, or we're not able to synthesize those fats, then the body quite literally will have struggle making and producing adequate levels of cortisol, adequate levels of progesterone. Any of the steroid hormones are synthesized from cholesterol and fat. So we have to be able to have those and to process those fats to be able to generate the hormones. So again, I go back to people who struggle with either really uncomfortable menstrual cycle symptoms. This often be because they have suboptimal levels of progesterone, suboptimal levels of cortisol. It also people who struggle with anxiety. The brain is primarily made of fat. If we don't have adequate levels of lipids and fatty acids, healthy fatty acids, we will struggle with anxiety. We can struggle with focus and attention. We can struggle with pain and pain perception in the body. And then we have our fifth nutrient or food item category is water. Water is so vital. Over 70% of our water is made, our body is made of water. So we constantly need that fresh, clean supply. So some ideas are to start your day with a warm cup of water, carry a water bottle with you, consider adding a little flavor of essential oil or fruit, something that definitely can help you increase your water intake. And I highly recommend consuming majority of your liquids, your water, separate from mealtime. We don't want to dilute the power of digestion, but we do want to make sure that we are giving our body what it needs. So here is a quick little, and this is also in the workbook for you, a quick little chart about if I were to construct my plan, hormone healthy, intentional nourishment plan, thinking about these categories, these buckets: protein at every meal 3 times a day, roughly a palm-sized serving. Essential fats, ideally, again, consistently 3 times a day, some type of healthy fat. I'm adding some, good avocado oil over a salad, or I am having my eggs with a little bit of avocado on the side, some healthy fat, 35 to 75 grams per day, so that you can synthesize and make those hormones, right? Vitamins and minerals, 5 cups of fruits and veggies or veggies, primarily veggies, because they tend to be lower sugar content, but 5 cups per day. And then fiber, again, 3 servings per day minimum, in addition to these other components. So I want you to think about what you ate yesterday. And we're going to do, again, a little reflection, or even the last 2 days. How many of these boxes did you tick for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And what's currently happening in terms of your nourishment? So let's go ahead and take a moment. I'll leave this up here so you can kind of think about the quantity, the frequency. But when you're doing the math and looking at these different categories of nutrients, how is that happening in your life today, or not happening? And again, no judgment, just awareness, so that we can optimize going forward. All right, I'm going to stop our share here. And who would like to share? Katie, can I volunteer you? Would you be willing to jump in and share?
Sure, yes.
Thank you. What came up for you?
I've been doing okay on the water.
Good. Awesome.
And the protein. Actually, lately I've been paying a lot of attention to the protein, and also like the timing of it, so that I'm not like overloading like one meal and like missing out on something with another. So
Yeah.
that seems to have made a big difference for me.
Awesome. Would you mind sharing with us? What are 1 or 2 of your protein go-tos that you've been able to kind of add in more intentionally?
I'm adding hemp seed,
Okay.
um, which I had never even used before. And so I like the sort of sweet nutty flavor of it
Hmm.
too. So yeah, so that's been like a protein booster for some of my meals.
Love that.
Yeah. Um, I'm doing well on the veggies. Um, and something that I've been trying lately is just making sure that I'm having like I usually steamed my vegetables
Okay.
and would have them with a protein. But I'm also making sure that every day I'm having some raw
Okay.
veggies,
Okay.
um, just for variety and variety of the particular veggie that I'm using, and also
Sure.
texture, the textures, just keep it more interesting. So,
Yes. Well, that's good. And sometimes there's different things that can change with the chemical structure of the food a little bit. I mean, you still get a majority of the nutrients in, but I love that just different preparation, variety of ways to think about it. One of my favorite tools is using herbs and spices in different recipes to kind of change it up and add a little bit of creativity into our food choices. Because, let's be honest, sometimes for the consistency's sake, it's great to start off with having similar foods repeated in your repertoire, right? But one way to kind of tweak the experience of it and the creativity and the flavor is to add herbs and spices into the food differently.
yes. Yeah,
Wonderful.
the fiber part is something that I wasn't sure if I was actually getting enough of it, but I think with the variety of veggies and seeds and nuts,
Mm-hmm.
that's working out okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think we're going into fall for us. Um, I'm going to be adding back in some beans that I kind of hadn't been doing during the summer because it just felt too heavy.
Sure.
So I think I'll be getting and sweet potatoes, and so I think I'll be getting plenty of fiber.
Good. I was gonna say, oftentimes, yeah, fiber is a little, if we eat a lot of like what I'm calling real whole foods and high levels of fruits and veggies and whole grains, then you can be hitting your fiber intake. Though I will say it's very, very surprising for a lot of women when we look more specifically if they are, eating what I'm going to call standard American diet, which includes some different processed and or packaged options, which is very common. They tend to be devoid of fiber. So it really comes down to how much of the whole real ingredients are we adding. And I love that Kate is sharing here what has worked with her is adding in some chia seeds, putting overnight oats with chia seeds added into it. Yeah, things like that. If you're thinking about putting the pepitas on top, if you're adding in the chia seeds, if you're adding in the hemp seeds, as Katie said, these things are increasing the nutrient density and the nutrient content, as well as the fiber and oftentimes the protein and healthy fats as well. So thinking about it comes back to the intentionality, right? Just having oatmeal for breakfast, great. But there's a huge difference if we're just grabbing a quick instant packet of oatmeal that's got some, high sugar flavoring things to it and just popping in with water versus if we're doing, the real oats, adding in the chia seeds, adding in maybe the almond milk and the blueberries on top, that's going to have much more nourishment and a much wider density of phytonutrients included into that meal. Even though you could say, hey, they're both oatmeal for breakfast, right? So I love that you ladies are doing this. This is good. This is good. Okay. I do want to share with you one of my favorite recipes. And this is called the Welcome to Midlife Maca Latte. And I'm going to kind of pop over here and share, and it may come off kind of small. Let me see if I can reposition this so you can see it a little bit better. Do you see where it says, welcome to Midlife Maca Latte? Yes, okay. And I can share this one with you as well. it is what we talked about, maintaining that ritual. When you think about your favorite beverage, if you're a beverage person, like whether it be coffee in the morning, whether it be, I think this is a great one to have in the evening too. Sometimes it's just like that ritual, instead of a glass of wine, instead of something else to like kind of calm down and kind of ease into the evening. This is a great option. Taking, and I pulled out my stuff, I like to use coconut oil. This is my huge container of coconut oil. You can find that at Costco. Maca powder. Maca is an adaptogen that works with the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. It's really powerful to help the body with stress response and its stress signaling. So it kind of alleviates some of what would normally be a stress response for cortisol and allows more bandwidth to help support other hormones. So maca can be really powerful for many women, especially when they're going through kind of some hormone shifting and changing in their 40s and maybe even into their 50s. I do say start slow. Some women find that only a teaspoon is adequate for them. Other women do better when they have a tablespoon of maca. So that is kind of unique, dose dependent. Another great option here is glycine powder. I just buy it in bulk. This is glycine powder. Glycine powder is a sugar that, again, it has insulin regulating properties to it. So it helps the body regulate its response to insulin and can really help for women who struggle with polycystic ovarian syndrome or struggle with insulin resistance, kind of creeping up or even into diabetes. So glycine can be a very effective type of sugar. It tastes a little sweet, honestly, but it doesn't have the same metabolic response in the liver as other simple sugars. And then inositol is another powder, and I have examples up here too, but this is another amino acid that can help with, actually I switched those. Inositol is the sugar, glycine is the amino acid. I inadvertently switched those when I was thinking of it. That helps with, this is the one that helps with the insulin signaling. And glycine is the one that helps to produce serotonin. It also helps to build tissue for hormone balance. So super simple recipe that you can do as kind of a, before bed, twirl it all up in your blender, use a little frother and, add a little cinnamon or vanilla. That's one of my favorite things. So I wanted to be sure to share that with you. And as we think about, as we're kind of putting together what we're currently eating, how we're currently showing up and with regards to our hormone healthy meal planning, I want you to stop and think about, again, oftentimes we have either lack of specificity. We don't really know what our body needs or why it needs it, why it's beneficial. And then when we're more general and broad strokes, it's easier to disengage and disconnect from consistent nourishment. It could be that we haven't taken the time to really think about which foods and how much of the foods. Am I getting enough protein in them? Do I have enough of the healthy fats? I haven't really taken the time to map it out and to reflect on what my current situation is, what gets to be adjusted or refined. The third reason that we kind of go into the why bother syndrome is our story, right? We all have different stories, different thoughts, different beliefs that come up when we're thinking about why it is hard for us to experience consistent, healthy nourishment that is in support of our hormone balance. So I want to give us one more chance here to reflect, to see what gets to be revealed for you now. And again, no wrong or right. It's the taking of the time to build out this awareness that allows us to make changes going forward. So I want to share my screen here and have you think about, what are maybe some of the reasons that you are not able to have consistent, healthy meals? And then in another column next to that, put what would I need to believe in order to experience intentional nourishment consistently, day in and day out, for years, not to be on a diet for 10 weeks or 4 weeks, but to have this just be my way of life. What would I need to think? And here's some examples. These may or may not relate with you, but I think sometimes it's helpful for us to think about what are some of the things that other women have shared? What are the things that our clients have talked about? And what are ways that they have to think about a new belief to reinforce and to get creative? So let's take a time, and you can look at these, take a moment to reflect if any of these are helpful for you or ring a bell. Let's see, who would like to share? Okay, let's see. Karen is sharing. This is good. Good insight. I need to be more intentional. I tend to have 2 meals daily, not 3. I need to step up my awareness of needing 3. Yeah, really, really, that's huge insight. Batch preparing meals. Me too, Kate says, because this is it. We just go on autopilot, right? It's normal, especially when we have other things or other areas of focus in our life. And it's that reminder that the body is sacred. Our body is very responsive when we're able to give it what it needs, because it's literally being recreated at a rate of 330 billion cells every single day. So what are we making those cells with? It's dependent upon what we're putting in our body, what we're making available for our nourishment. Good, good, good. I love to see it. So again, it's really, we're kind of going to the deeper layers here, because the tactical stuff, yeah, that's great to implement. That's great to do, but it's really the why behind it is really what makes a huge shift in our ongoing efforts. So I'd love to take a moment here and see if there's any, if you can share with me your biggest aha, biggest new area of focus or inspiration that came through today, as we're wrapping up here. So who wants to share first? What has come up? And if you have any questions, anything that's outstanding, I definitely want to be available. I was given this mantra: my body is sacred, partnership, it deserves kindness, patience, and respect. Yeah, absolutely, Karen. That's beautiful. It does. It does deserve kindness, patience, respect. 100%. And I do want to share with you, ladies. So I'm actually starting today and through the next several days, there is a special, in this training, it was really kind of focusing on food and nourishment. And that is one piece of the overall picture when it comes to balancing our hormones, right? So we talk in our Natural Hormone Solution program about 5 critical steps. The first is replenish nutrients and knowing what our body needs. It's identifying the root cause and really understanding when we have unwanted symptoms, when we're experiencing overwhelm, when we're experiencing brain fog, when we're experiencing insomnia, when we're experiencing aches and pains, what is the root cause driver that precedes that? So identifying the cause, replenishing nourishment, nutrients, restoring our digestive fire so that once we're taking in those foods, we actually have the capacity to break it down and absorb it at a cellular level. Then resetting our thinking, understanding how our hypothalamus and our pituitary and our thoughts really do signal, especially from a nervous system perspective, our body's response and allocation of resources, and then becoming empowered around that, and then removing toxins that may be blocking or depleting our nutrients. So it's making our body struggle and suffer in one way or another. So there's really 5 steps today. We kind of just did a little bit of exploration into one of the steps, but we're offering some bonuses and some special savings for those women who feel called to up-level their health this fall. And I'm going to be sharing via email, going to be sharing online. If you're interested, please reach out, let me know. In fact, I will put my link in here for you to go ahead and book a time that we can have a conversation and see if now is the right time for you to up level and join us in the natural hormone solution and really make a change in your health before the end of the year. It's a 12-week program that we go through, and it's really kind of taking you step by step through gaining new tools, new insights, and putting some plan into place to keep this top of mind. Wonderful, wonderful. Are there any questions, ladies? I love this. Thanks for sharing. Katie's saying, question about food combining. As we plan our meals, are there any combinations of food groups, nutrients to avoid eating at the same time? I love this question. And one of the key things that is really important to think about too, especially when it comes to our body's ability to fully absorb and to break down foods, we want to utilize our stomach acid's ability to break down when it's at its most potent. So when you think about consuming, ideally proteins and or veggies at the start of the meal. So having your proteins and your veggies first rather than carbohydrates. So specifically things like even whole grains, fruits are a little bit softer for many of us, but any breads, any other simple carbohydrates specifically, those that want to come later as opposed to earlier in the meal. And there are definitely different schools of thought about more specific food combining in foods, like whether it be dairy and, different carbohydrates and things like that, that you pair or don't pair. I will say that there is no universal law that is consistent for every human being. It's because we are bio-individual. But knowing your body and really listening to the cues and clues of your body is going to be absolutely critical. I always lean on the direction of getting in the protein, getting in the healthy fibers, those things first early in the meal, and then have room for some of your other, complex carbohydrates, even fatty acids later. So I hope that was Katie was answering that question or asking that question. Any other questions, ladies, that I can help you with today? No, I don't think so. Wonderful.
I've got one.
Okay.
What essential oil do you suggest for what to put in your water?
Oh, great question. First of all, I would say the quality of the oil is really important. You want to make sure that you have a good quality oil, right? So, but I've used anything from orange to lemon burst to lime. So it tends to be, I tend to lean towards the citrus side just because it's almost like if I don't have a fresh lime or fresh fruit available, those are enjoyable. But yeah, it can give us just a little, a slight little nuanced flavoring so that you can enjoy that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Wonderful, ladies. All right. Well, if you have any questions, if you would like to have a conversation about learning more about our natural hormone solution program, like I said, we have some special bonuses that are available and some savings, $300 savings that's available over the next several days. You can take advantage of that. This was great. So appreciate you. Thank you. I love you, ladies, too. And have a fabulous afternoon. We'll be in touch.